Let me. So this transmission is the most misunderstood concept and idea. See, I mean, if I kind of look at my journey since childhood, I studied in Loyola Academy, very staunch Catholic school. So I got exposed to Bible in my elementary school. I mean, we used to read Bible pretty much every day. And every Sunday we used to attend church. And then I got into reading the Indian scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, and some of the epics. Basically, I picked up the original text. There are a lot of movie cinematic versions over there, but I picked up the original text and understood a little bit, read. Then I got introduced to this heartfulness meditation. And for almost 6-7 years, I would say I did not read any Bible or any Indian scriptures. So those days, I got exposed to the science fiction, Asimov and stuff like that. And then Tolkien was my favorite, into fantasy, right? Uh, so, and we were watching Dune 2 the other day. I was kind of remembering my old days. Dune 2, I read it when I was, staying in Chennai Ashram. One of the Chariji's favorite book, Dune, Frank Herbert. And then, so there's a big gap of 15 years for me to read anything in between. And when I started reading Bible, when I started reading the Bhagavad Gita from Indian scriptures, right? And the Bible, of course, it kind of gave me a totally different meaning, though I'm exposed to these things at a very young age. It totally gave me a different meaning. Suppose, you meet somebody after 20-30 years, you are in some other country, and then somebody says, oh, I'm from Orlando. Oh, where are you from Orlando? And then, have you been to this mall? Did you eat at this restaurant? Two people will be talking to each other, correct? It's like you can relate to each other. So when I'm reading this, after my practice of heartfulness, it's as if I have been through that journey. It's as if I've been there in person. When I'm reading, it's like we both are talking, even whatever, the Bible or the Gita is talking the language I've already kind of seen, experienced. That's the kind of feeling. For a third person, it is information, but I'm reading as if I'm the first or the second person. It totally changed my understanding. And then I was wondering, is it because of my practice of heartfulness? Is it because of something else? Then it dawned upon me, it is none other than the effect of the transmission, because it takes you through that journey as if you are there in person. It becomes your own experience. That is the effect of transmission. Without the transmission, just by even practicing heartfulness meditation or any meditation, it would not have made any difference. This transmission makes a lot of difference, enormous difference to your spiritual journey from the day one. And it doesn't judge who you are, from what background you are, nothing. It is invoked from the day one, and slowly it opens up those channels without our realization. So while transmission is happening, we don't realize. But if we kind of look back, there is a huge change which happened. Now you read a book, now you read Bible, now you read Gita, your absorption or your understanding of it is totally different. And it is now you kind of go to that entity, from where it is, from which standpoint it's talking. What is that entity is actually experiencing, thinking, and saying it? Can you believe that? If Gita is saying something in the, Gita is narrated or, told by Lord Krishna, you can actually get into the mind of the Krishna and realize, understand from where he is talking. What is his understanding when he's saying certain sentences? That is what he can perceive. It is all the effect of transmission. Without this transmission, that level of perception is not possible. And what is transmission? It is that essence of this highest state is being put into us. So in every meditation is taking us to the highest state. So if any meditation with the transmission, it takes us to the highest state humanly possible. Then you might ask, why am I not experiencing it? If it is so tangent, so vivid, everybody would have felt it. But it is vivid in a sense because of our engagement with this external world is so much, we don't notice it. Even though it's happening, we don't notice it, we don't realize it. What happened today, it takes about another 100 meditations to realize it. So that nurturing is happening from inside as we meditate, practice, and slowly it changes our perspective. It's a gradual change. We were toddlers at some point, and now we are adults. This change happened gradually, and we don't even notice it. We have to look back our toddler pictures. Oh, I was so cute. Not cute anymore. Right? So the change is evident. I mean, it will happen. It becomes evident after a while. And another point, what I was trying to say is, here the progress or progression in spirituality is not a gradual, like how we kind of grew from toddlers to the adults today. It was a very gradual change over a period of time. But here, the change happens in leaps and bounds. It's a huge jump we take in our spiritual practice as we are doing it. It's a dimensional shift. So what practice is doing is, it is making us get used to this dimensional shift. Okay. So I think we read this last week. But transmission can be defined as the utilization of divine energy for the transformation of a being. I use the word energy because I don't have a better alternative. Energy has a wide spectrum. The material world is a dense expression of energy in the form of matter. There is a subtler expression of energy called prana. Prana is, you can think of as a life source, right? So, I mean, where is life in our body? It's in every cell, every molecule. So if you look at it that way, prana is the subtler energy which is keeping us alive. Now there is a spectrum of energy that remains as it is, unchanged, like a catalyst, and enriches whatever it touches. And that energy is known as, or is transmission called pranasya prana. Pranasya prana means the life of life itself. That means by our body and mind, everything is alive because of the prana. Now think of that prana which is alive because of, that is transmission. It is that original force, the beginning, the God itself, the essence of the God itself is that pranasya prana. And the moment we say transmission, this is another thing we need to understand here. The moment we say transmission, we assume that it is going from point A to point B. Or we assume that it is from the guru, the teacher, to the disciple. But in a higher dimension, it is not from one source to the destination. It is not from a source to a target. It is already there within. And by the power of intention, what is called in Indian language sankalpa, by power of intention, it is evoked, it made it evident, it is put into use. And this intention was done by the teacher. It is already there. Daji gives a very good example. If you turn on the fan, you feel that, the blow of the air. The fan is not creating the air. It is channeling that air towards you, which is already there. So this life of life is there, but it is in a dormant state. To bring it to life itself, that intention is required. And the most subtlest, pure intention is required to evoke it. And that's what our teachers are doing, so that this, from a dormant state, it comes into a state where it can be put into use. And because of that, we get this highest experience in every meditation, whether we recognize it or not, whether we realize it or not. So it doesn't qualify, oh, this person should not be given transmission. Not like that. Everyone gets it equally. Each one's absorption levels are different. But that changes as we practice, as we grow. The growth of spirituality is your absorption level becomes different. That's all the growth is. So transmission is the spectrum of energy resembling the absolute vibration that emerged from center. Using transmission, the inner journey is greatly accelerated and helps one makes progress that otherwise would have taken hundreds of lifetimes. Because of transmission, the merger with the center, the highest goal, has become possible within one single lifetime. Previously, it would take untold number of lifetimes to elevate consciousness of the absolute. Here I'll tell you something, some impersonal conversations I was part of, during my initial days with Chariji, the previous global guide, teacher, guru. And he was saying, it seems, it was basically coming from Babuji, shared with Chariji, that the Vishwamitra had to meditate. So in those days, all these seers, yogis, they could keep themselves alive for many years beyond their lifetime through yogic practices, so that they can grow spiritually, because it takes a lot of time, many lives, just to move from one point to the second point. It took him 30,000 years. 30,000 years. And in heartfulness practice, this could happen in few, anywhere from few weeks to few months practice, this can happen. with the effect of transmission. So you can imagine the, the benefits or the effect of transmission, right? Oops. Yes, Cliff.
Yes, I have a question about the transmission then. Okay, if it's there and it simply needs a guy to kind of unlock it, to activate it.
Intended, yeah.
After you kind of learn that, then do you really need a guide anymore?
Yes. I'll tell you why. So what happens is these states are so subtle. Let's say every meditation experience kind of gives you the feeling that you are already there. And it's because of the transmission, right? That intention. So the intention is made already. So every time you sit for meditation, you receive the transmission because the intention is made already. So I can, so this intentions, how they work is I don't have to make that intention present. I can say, whoever is meditating in Orlando will receive transmission, even after 1 year, even after 10 years or 100 years, because the intention is made. So then the guide has already made that intention. Do I still need that guide? Yes. I'll tell you why. I mean, that's a very good question. The role of the guide. Maybe we can do one full topic on role of the guide. What happens is, many seers of the past, even in their tiny achievements, they thought they're already enlightened. You need a guide to tell you that is not it. There is more to it. So the guide is sort of, because he's a guide, he has to guide you. So the guide is until your establishment, your mental status becomes one with the goal, the guide has to take you through this journey. Because at any point you might think that you already made it and your progress stops. So the push needs to be there, right? So this journey is so subtle and so it could delusional sometimes. You can think that you already made it at any point, and it feels very much true. But only the higher guide can tell you, who has seen the higher, can tell you, okay, this is not it. It's like that story in Heartfulness Way. Raji gave a very good example. An ant asks a bird, I want to see the ocean. I heard about it. How big is the ocean and which direction I should take? The bird says, go in this direction. It kind of that ant will see a small place, where on the road some water gathered because of the rain. And it was so joyful that, oh, I reached the ocean, and it is kind of swimming in it. And the bird comes back and says, oh, it looks like you are very happy. Why are you happy? And it says, I already found the ocean. And the bird laughs. This is just the rainwater gathered on the road. This is not the ocean. You have to go further. You see, it is like that. Our journey is like that. Because of our perception, we could think any small water gathered anywhere is an ocean. That means you think you made it. So the guide is very much required. There are times the guide has to completely handhold you and walk you through it. It's like that story. There's a guy, who is watching. He's seeing that there are some footsteps is following him all the time. He could see the footprints on the road. And later there is only single footprints. And finally he understood when he saw the single footprints, the God is actually carrying him. Have you heard of this story? So that's why the guide is required, because we can fumble at any point in this journey. Right? So for reasons unknown, the knowledge of harnessing transmission for human transformation was lost over time. Of course, it's brought back. And thanks to our grandmaster, you call it the first guide of the heartfulness, Lalaji, his name is Ramchandra, in 1873, rediscovered this technique. And ever since, that technique has passed from one guide to the another. And not only that, he enabled every trainer to be a conduit for this transmission. So the trainer will not transmit, but becomes a conduit to kind of, have a more focused work on the practicants. So, I mean, there is various studies were conducted, studies, at the brain patterns, EEG, all that. But, it's at a very physical level, whatever study you conduct. And no, there is no instrument to measure this, subtler states. Okay, you can at the most say, your sleep quality, energy modulation, and blah, blah, blah. All this, I'm saying blah, 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 because still, even though it's a research, people, the scientific bent minds would like to see that research. But the real thing is, the subtle state, there is no measurement. Only you, as a practicant, becomes a scale to measure what happens with you doing this practice. Right? So I'll stop here. Any more questions, comments, observations?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
Well, the guides are human and humans are imperfect. So how do you know that you're being guided correctly? And maybe each guide is going to have a different version of what is correct.
So I don't think guides have ever emphasized what is correct. So now I like I'm discussing, I'm kind of referring to a story of the ant and the God carrying you. These are all some information I gathered with my studies, and I can correlate to this discussion, correct? But discussion is a discussion. The moment you bring anything down to the verbal level, know that whoever speaks at a verbal level, it is a partial truth. So Babuji spoke from his understanding, what he is exposed to. Jesus spoke from his understanding, what he is exposed to, and the culture and the circumstances around him. Same thing with the Lord Krishna. Anyone. Here there is no anything brought down to a spoken word cannot be a full truth. Doesn't matter who speaks. It's very unacceptable to many, but that is the how it is. The principle works the same way. That subtle energy, subtle sense of source, what you can feel is through transmission. That transmission is the same, whether Lalaji transmitted, Jesus transmitted, Lord Krishna transmitted, or today Daji is transmitting, it is the same.
Why is it the same? I mean,
because that energy, that source is the same. See, I mean, think of it like that. Is the gravity experienced my grandfather and the gravity I'm experiencing today, is it different?
Yeah, but it's not originating from, it's the environment, the physics. It's not someone who's guiding you.
No. So here it is, that's why I said the fan is only blowing the air towards you, but the air exists already. So the transmission exists already. It is just the intention which some guide is making to make it evident for you and make it useful for you, awaken it for you. So that awakening, the transmission is the same, regardless who is touching it. So here it cannot be, it should not be any different.
So you're saying that whether someone practiced for a year and said, I'm going to be a trainer now, versus someone who's been doing it for 30 years versus Daji, it's all the same.
Correct.
Then there's no reason to say I need a sitting with Daji,
Uh-huh.
correct?
Correct. It's no different. It cannot be different. Whether you sit with the trainer or Daji, it cannot be different. I'll tell you, the trainer, like I use the word conduit, trainer is a conduit. Okay. But the real intention happened at the guide's level, at Daji's level. So now the tank is full. I mean, a conduit, it's like the the water pipe in your house or the water hose in your house. When you turn on the water hose, it's coming from the source. But you can say, oh, water is coming from the water hose, because that's what you see. So trainer is like that water hose. And by you are sitting with in front of the trainer, you are basically turning on that water hose. The trainer is just a conduit. Right?
Well,
So
the flow through a hose depends upon the size of the hose. You get more water out of a 3/4
that's
inch
why the
hose
size
than you
size
do
of
a
the
5/8
hose,
inch hose.
correct. That's why I said you turn on the hose. The size of the hose is controlled by you. According to your absorption, you are like a pressure valve. According to your absorption, only that much is turned on. So it's basically how much is turned on depends on the practicant, the seeker, rather than the source. Because source is abundant. Once somebody asked Chariji, hey, why don't you stay with us for some more days? And Chariji said, if there is a huge flood, dog can only latch so much water. It cannot latch the entire flood. So the dependence depends on how much I can absorb, and that's how much the rest everything goes waste. I don't say it's waste because it's all pervading. All pervading cannot go waste. Where will it go if it has to be wasted? So it is always there. The entire thing is there. It depends on each individual's capacity we absorb. So how much depends on us. The quality of it depends on us. All right. So that's why we don't want to quantify the transmission. The quantifying the transmission, again, we are bringing it down to a physical measurements. It is infinite. And we are coming in contact with the infinite. In infinite, what is the quantity? You become infinite. What is coming to you is infinite. How do you quantify it? So here it's very difficult to quantify it like that. But just to quantify, what I'm saying is, just to make it understand better, I'm saying depending on our absorption, that's how much transmission flows. But it is what is given to us is entire, and that is the beauty. In an infinite, even the smallest, tiniest amount is infinite. So infinite is infinite, smallest amount is infinite, biggest amount is infinite. and no amount is infinite in infinity. So now, how do you explain that in words? I try to put it in words, but how do you explain it in experience? So only we have to experience. It sounds little, but this is a very, intellectual concept. I mean, if I have to put it, it's like even string theory goes into 11 dimensions. Transmission goes into infinite dimensions. So the strings are, if there's 11 dimensions of the string, if you talk about an atom is three-dimensional. Electron is still three-dimensional. And from that which electron is made, strings is 11-dimensional. Now transmission, on which all this movement, motion, life, everything depends on, is infinite dimensional. So now how do you explain, how do you quantify it? So, okay. I think we are way past time. Let's begin meditation. Thank you, Cliff, for the questions. Really.
Recording in progress.